Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and whether we like to admit it or not, I think it's time to admit Xbox might be over, as a console at least, not necessarily as a brand. Let me explain. I have loved Xbox for over 20 years, and at this point, it's just sad to see what has become of Xbox, to see that Nintendo is doing so well and Sony is doing so well, and yeah, I know, alright, Microsoft is doing well as well. But this may actually be the last Xbox console you ever see. So it's existed for many, many years. And let's face it, that original X-shaped Xbox was pretty awesome, and I would have loved to have gotten that. Instead, we got the OG big fat Xbox with the Duke controller. That was okay. It wasn't the best console by any means at that point. Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube, they were all the competitors, and they were, let's face it, better than the Xbox, at least in my opinion. Xbox 360 came out, blue was all the way. Yeah, sure, red ring of death, whatever. They solved that with the revised model, which was a bit slimmer, and then obviously we got the new model again, which was meant to look like Xbox One. Xbox One, I actually liked it, but they failed miserably in the marketing, especially with Don Matrick coming on stage and saying it's permanently online, Adam Orth saying, deal with it. That's ancient history now. In terms of gaming, that really is ancient history, but Xbox never recovered from it. They got on with it, and by the end of that generation, the Xbox was the most powerful console on the market. Project Scorpio, which ended up being Xbox One X. Microsoft have a really bad habit of naming their consoles terribly. They're just awful. Anyway, the Xbox Series comes out. We have the Series S and the Series X. And the problem with this generation was the Series S. Obviously, Series X being the better version to get. One, because you could play discs on it. Two, because it was more powerful. The Series S, yes, it was good for what it was. But do you know what? That hampered Xbox in general. So going forward from here, what does that mean for Xbox? Well, quite frankly, Xbox has always had a problem every single generation. First generation, controller was too big, it put a lot of people off. Second generation, 360, red ring of death, bad reputation. By the end of that generation, yeah, although it sold well, the PS3 ended up outselling it. The third generation, Xbox One, the problem was the marketing, Don Matrick, Adam Orth, they just ruined the whole brand. This generation, Series S. What's going to happen next? They might come out with a handheld. Yeah, cool. But can that be classed as a home console? No, I would argue not. It's like the same argument as the Nintendo Switch. Is that a home console? Well, some people say yes, some people say no. I'm not getting into that debate. I don't care. The Switch is cool. I like the Switch. I ain't getting into that debate today. So handheld Xbox, okay, yeah, maybe it will happen. It'd be a bit like the Steam Deck, I would imagine, i.e. no physical games, but you play it all, and it's really geared towards something like Game Pass. What if they do release a console? Oh, come on, look, Xbox can say whatever the hell they want at this point. They are not going to release another console. They're not that stupid. They can work on the technology, and that technology can be advanced into something else, but not an Xbox console. So that's why I'm saying that this is the last Xbox you will ever see. And it's such a shame. It really is a shame, because I love this Xbox. Out of all the generations, even though 360 existed, I think it's the Series X is my favourite Xbox. And I couldn't tell you why. I absolutely love it. Its design, look at it. Its design is awesome. It's a shame it doesn't light up in there, though. You know what I mean? But it's irrelevant. And what Microsoft is pushing towards now is, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, your Switch 2 can be an Xbox, your PlayStation 5 will eventually be an Xbox. Look, let's face it, Microsoft is going to put Xbox games on the PS5. They already have. They're going to come thick and fast at some point. Just wait till you get something like Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6 on the PlayStation brand. I mean, Elder Scrolls 6, probably not PS5, might be PS6. I really couldn't tell you at this point. No one seems to bloody know. But the fact of the matter is, Microsoft wants to make Xbox its brand, not a console, not an actual box anymore. And for me, that's sad. Let me just put this over here. It's quite heavy. It's a heavy little bugger. And it is quite sad to say that we're never going to get another Xbox, because realistically, Xbox has been the backbone of a lot of the console wars, but also the advancements. I mean, look at Kinect. I know Kinect in itself failed, and then having the Xbox One bundled with Kinect, and that failed as well. But do you know what? Kinect itself was ahead of its time. If Microsoft were to bring it out today, I think it'd be a lot more successful, because you got to look at something like PSVR, right? Kinect. They're not directly competing. They probably never would have directly competed because they're two very different kinds of things, you could say. But to have Kinect versus VR, honestly, I like VR, but I would choose Kinect any day. Which is kind of strange to say considering that I do prefer PlayStation brand over Xbox. But the Kinect, I think, was a genius idea. Microsoft in general have had great ideas, and the fact that last generation, the Xbox One X was the most powerful console of the generation, it just couldn't redeem the bad stuff that Microsoft had done. Going forward, Microsoft are always going to do bad stuff. It's always going to be publicised. You look at all the layoffs that they have and cancellations and getting rid of studios and all that. Like Tango Gameworks, for example. No one to this day can really understand why they got rid of Tango, because Hi-Fi Rush was a massive success. Yeah, sure, Ghostwire Tokyo, maybe not so much, but The Evil Within could have been a huge brand for Microsoft, and they threw it away. It's bad decisions, but there must be reasons behind these decisions. I believe one day Phil Spencer will rock up to either Nintendo Direct or a Sony State of Play and say, here's some Xbox games for Nintendo, Sony, whatever. That will happen. And the day that happens is the day you can guarantee you will never see another Xbox console. It's hard to believe a world without it, because many of you at this point have grown up knowing that Xbox existed. Me, personally, I grew up in the 90s, so I've known a world before Xbox. I grew up in a world where it was Nintendo and Sega, and then Atari was off in the distance somewhere. You know, with like the Jaguar, or Jaguar as it's pronounced in America. You know, they were just off in the distance. But it was all about Nintendo and Sega. And some of you probably don't even know that Sega really made a console. Well, they made several consoles. One of their consoles is one of my all-time favourite consoles, the Dreamcast. But that's a whole other story, especially when it comes to Microsoft. But I might make a video on that some other day. So the console wars have always existed, but now, if Xbox gets out the console market, the only real consoles that you could buy would be Nintendo and Sony. Yeah, there's some other consoles out there from, you know, random people that you've never even heard of, but that's irrelevant. They're not the mainstream ones. Mainstream would be Sony and Nintendo. But ultimately, I don't think we'll ever see another console from Xbox. I mean, like I say, it's hard to comprehend because I absolutely adore this thing, but at this point, you've got to accept that it's going to happen. It probably will happen to Sony in the end as well. Sony will want to make their brand much like what Xbox has done. This is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox. You play it on anything. And that probably is going to happen. How long that'll be? Who knows? Nintendo, probably a whole other story. Nintendo does what Nintendo wants to do. You know, I mean, Switch 2, for example, it baffles me what they've done with that. But that, again, that's a whole other video. We're on about Xbox here. I am very sad to say that, yes, I truly believe that is that last Xbox console, but it's a good job that it is my favourite Xbox console. I adore the Series X. Anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments below, because it is a very controversial topic and a lot of people will talk about this in different ways and have different opinions, and opinions are important when it comes to this. So don't be afraid to unleash in the comments and tell me how you feel. But until then, I will see you in the next video.